I think the biggest problem within Protestantism is Sola Scriptura, and here's why. When we give people the ability to interpret scripture for themselves without the magisterium, it will lead to division like we have never seen before. For the first 1500 years of the Catholic Church, everything is in order. Yes, there were schisms, but not as great as the Protestant Reformation. But after the Protestant Reformation, Christians saw divisions like they have never seen before. Christians saw people take scripture out of context like no one have done before. Because Sola Scriptura give us the ability to take one verse and interpret it for ourselves to a way where we think we understand the whole Bible now. And that's what most Protestants love to do. They take one part of scripture and there are thousands of contradictions within that one part that they pick. But they ignore all of these contradictions. But in the case of Martin Luther, he just tried to remove all of these contradictions, but he failed.
What is very interesting is it actually backfires on them. Because if you look at 2 Thessalonians 2:15, it states, "So then, brothers and sisters, stand firm and hold fast to the teachings we passed on to you, whether by word or mouth or letter." Look at the part where it says by word of mouth. That's tradition. They listened to those who came before them.
I think Martin Luther might have forgotten to remove that one, because I can see his strategy. He reads scripture, he sees what interprets his view, and whatever that does not interpret his view, like the book of Tobit, 1st Tobit, 2nd Tobit, all of the other 7 books that are missing from the Protestant Bible, he was able to remove. I think he tried to remove more, but because these parts that he tried to remove, like James, are such an important part in scripture. But I want to bet that if he had the ability to, he would.
I wouldn't say that he didn't do it because it was too important. I would say by the glory of God, God stopped him. And from there, that's where Protestants can learn. He really did remove those books. Like in Maccabees, it goes against his teaching of purgatory. But if you look at it clearly, it says it's good to pray for the dead.
We can clearly see their strategy. They pick and choose. Whatever does not align with their teachings, they just simply remove. And apostolic succession is actually proven in scripture. This one Martin Luther forgot to remove again. It's stated in Isaiah 22 verse 22.
It states, "I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open." And it's very similar to when Jesus gave Peter the keys to the kingdom. And if you look at it word for word, in Matthew 16 verse 9 it states, "I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven."
Some Protestant might say, well, the Old Testament and the New Testament is separated for a reason. My response to that will be, why do Christians still follow the 10 Commandments? There are certain things Christians today still follow that came from the Old Testament.
Patrick, if Sola Scriptura was really correct, why can't all these denominations agree on one topic, like is baptism required for salvation? Because for us as Catholics, we already know it's required for salvation. And even for those who are not baptized in the church, still have that desire of baptism, like we've stated in a few other videos.
Well, I feel bad for those people who are researching Christianity when they fall into Protestantism. I'm lucky enough, by the mercy of God, that I went to Catholicism directly and I have to research the Catholic Church. There's only one church. But can you imagine researching Protestantism? There are over 45,000 different divisions. Look at how many you have to research. One agrees with baptism. Well, the church across the street does not agree with baptism. One agrees with faith alone. The church across the street does not agree with faith alone. Look at how many tireless nights you will have researching the Protestants, because there are simply too many divisions.
I feel like for most Protestants, they literally just go to church, have fun in their service. Like when I was younger, I used to go to this one Protestant church, and I've always thought, what is the purpose of just jumping around? There's no, how do you say it? There's no that feeling, when you walk into a
There's no
Catholic church,
feeling
that
of
feeling
worship.
peace.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, there's no feeling of peace and worship.
You go to a church, you want to feel like you're worshipping God. You don't want to feel like you're entering into a club. And I think in most Pentecostal church, it feels like you're entering into a club with holy music. Holy music doesn't change the fact that it is still a club. The drums, the flashing lights still make it feel like a club. And what makes a Catholic church in the Mass is us celebrating the Eucharist, making the death of Jesus Christ present again. Not re-sacrificing, but making that specific event present again. And we celebrate it through listening to music that are appropriate to celebrate the Eucharist. We do not listen to music with flashing lights. I think that most Pentecostal church and non-denominational church have drawn so far away from the Catholic Church and adapted this modern secularization to the point where when you enter into it without listening to the worship song, their worship song is amazing. I listen to Protestant worship song in my free time, but it is not to worship God on Sunday. To worship God on Sunday, you need to listen to a song that makes you feel like you're worshiping God. You go to any Protestant church right now that are in the non-denominational church or the Pentecostal church, you listen to their music and it doesn't feel like you're worshiping God at all. It feels like you're just entering into another party. But what makes this party different from the others is that this party have holy music, but it is still with a bunch of drums.
And Patrick, one thing that we have to realize is we worship God. We don't worship the worship. And I've heard people saying, when they go to events like in Pentecostal churches, they say they feel the presence of God. But the question is, are you feeling the presence of God? Or are you feeling the presence around you? Because when you listen to sad music, you feel the presence of sadness. You listen to happy music, you feel happy. So what are you really feeling?
But in a Catholic church, when you see the Eucharist, you feel Jesus in you. Because the biggest difference between the Protestant church and the normal Catholic church is that in the Catholic church, we face the tabernacle. In the Catholic church, we face the Eucharist. But in the Protestant church, you face the pastor. The sermon of the pastor determines whether it is a good church or a bad church. But in a Catholic church, what the priest says doesn't determine if it is a good mass or a bad mass, but the Eucharist does. If the Eucharist is present, well, that's the whole purpose of the Mass. So it is a good Mass because Jesus is present.
Like you've said before, and it's the truth, during a Catholic Mass, heaven and earth touch. So it's just that feeling of peace when you're inside a Catholic church. It's absolutely amazing.
When you go into a Catholic church, it just feels like a timeless place, doesn't it? It feels like time is just stopped. It feels like it is not adapting to the secularized world. Right now, you can look everywhere. In the streets, in buildings, there are screens. You can go anywhere in the world today. It is so digitalized to the point where you go shopping, there are screens that say sale in big letters. But I think it is very useful for us to have a place where we go into a place and we don't focus on the screen. We don't focus on the performance, but we focus on Jesus.
Now let me put you in a hypothetical scenario. Let's say you as a Protestant pastor started your church and you believe on the basis of Ephesians 2, 8-9, which states, "For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and not from yourself. It is the gift of God, not by work, so that no one can boast." But then the Bible also states in James 2, verse 24, you see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. And what Patrick said earlier, they really pick and choose what they want. Does that mean God can go against his own word? Does that mean God contradicts himself in the Bible? No, it's completely about context.
First of all, one of the biggest conceptions by Protestants that Catholics believe that we are saved through works. Catholics completely believe that we are saved through the grace of God, but we have to do good works to be able to cooperate with these good graces. We can see how these two scripture verses completely aligns with the Catholic Church teachings, but it does not align with the teachings of the Protestant theology. So Benedict, I'm curious, what is the difference between a person trying to become a Catholic priest? How does that process look for them? And an ordinary person in a non-denominational church trying to become that church's pastor?
It is a very big difference. To become a non-denominational pastor, it takes typically maybe around 1 to 4 years. Whereas to become a Catholic priest, it takes up to 7 to 9 years to become a priest.
Again, this does not apply for all Protestants. Again, this is for non-denominational Protestants in certain churches. I cannot say for all Protestant for sure like I do for Catholics, because there are so much division within Protestantism. So I will have to pick a specific denomination, and I picked the non-denominational church. And because there are so many types of non-denominational church, this is just the general outline of how that process would look like.
And for a non-denominational pastor, to begin, their step 1 is they need to develop leadership skills. That includes joining a music group, leading a youth group. Whereas, to become a priest, you need philosophical studies. And for them to go through all that versus what a non-denom pastor has to go through is really a lot.
Typically for a Catholic priest to even be ordained as a priest, they need at least 9 to 10 years in seminary, and they need to have a psychological evaluation, and they have to be selected out of many priests, because in the seminary it's not just one person, there are many people simultaneously trying to become a priest. You need to be selected, then only you can be a Catholic priest. And again, this is not the same for every Protestant. Some Protestant churches requires many things like education. I'm not too sure because there are so many denominations.
The biggest thing is Catholic priests cannot get married, whereas most non-denom pastors can. And another thing is, for a Catholic priest to really become a priest, they would have to spend 1 year in a Catholic church. Then only they can be ordained as a proper priest.
And we can see how most Protestant preachers, like we see on YouTube, some of them say some heretical things about the Catholic Church without representing the Catholic Church in the right way. We can see especially street preachers, when they are speaking through a mic, they would say many heretical things about Catholics, like Catholics worship Mary, and some of the things they say isn't even true about Catholics. Without studying the Catholic theology, they would just say things that they think Catholics believe in, but Catholics really do not believe in these things. So it really shows most Catholic priests, obviously there are some that represent the Protestant side on the wrong way as well. I think it is much more easier for a Catholic to represent a Protestant wrongly than for a Protestant to represent Catholics in a wrong way. Because for a Protestant trying to debate a Catholic, they would just have to research the one Catholic church. But let's say I would want to debate a Protestant, I will have to think, what denomination of do you believe? And after that, research about your specific church. And maybe the specific church in your area have a different belief than the broader denomination in the church. You get what I mean?
I get what you mean.
So there are
Because
many
there's
Pentecostal
so
churches,
many,
right?
Patrick.
Let's say one Pentecostal church believe in a different theology than all of the Pentecostal church. So it is very hard for us Catholics to engage in a debate with Protestants because we don't know where to start our research. But for a Protestant to debate a Catholic, it is quite easy because they would just have to research one church.
I think we've brought up so many points in this video that we would think Protestants will get confused. But in reality, they have the same power that their lead reformer did. They will just pick and choose any point in the video they want and take it out of context.
Well, I think on that note, it's time to end the video. I hope you guys enjoy watching today's video. If you did, please leave a like, comment your thoughts down below and subscribe.